Hello and good evening. I'm Melisa Idris, and you're watching The Future is Female. This is the show where we find the extraordinary in every woman. Now, it's often said that flowers make an occasion, and on the most important days of our lives, flowers are usually around, from weddings to anniversaries to births and deaths, Mother's Day, Valentine's Day. Flowers are always part of the scene. Roses are red, however, they're not very green, environmentally speaking. And the truth is that there is an environmental cost with every bouquet of flowers. Now, some florists are doing their best, however, to champion sustainability in floristry. And I'm delighted to be speaking to one today. Brenda James is the founder and principal florista of Nook Flowers, which is a boutique floral and event design firm. Brenda, so lovely of you to join us on the show. Thank you so much for doing this, for chatting
Hi.
to me today.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine. Thanks for having me.
Wonderful. Okay, so there's so much I want to talk to you about the business of floristry, but before we kind of get into that, I'm really curious to know how you came to be in this scene, in this field. I mean, have you always been, passionate about flowers and floral design? Has that always been in your life?
Yes, to a large extent, it has been. So before I came into the world of floristry, I specialize in brand communications, which is a really dynamic field, and I'm glad I started my career in that part because I think it all the training that I got in building a brand, building other people's brands, put me in good stead to build my own when the time came. But
Mm.
after about a better part of a decade in the brand comms industry, I was keen to be in pursuit of my own happiness. You know, so flowers was something that I'd always I did it for fun, for friends, for family, for free. It was one of those
You mean
things
like
that,
arrangement, floral arrangements?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, just little bits, but it just always brought such joy, and it was really personal joy. And when I was looking into exploring and starting something into my own, um, flowers seemed to be a natural choice. I knew I wanted to work with my hands. It was just a question of what was the palette, what was the medium going to be. So flowers became a natural choice.
Okay.
And even the name of the flower shop, Belinda, who is the other half of Nook Flowers. Nook Flowers is founded by sisters and run by
Oh.
family. Yeah. So Belinda said to me, she said, Akka, you've always wanted to open a nook of your own. So why don't we just call it Nook Flowers?
I would
So,
love to open a nook of my own with my sister. I think that's wonderful. Okay, so the interest sprang from a talent or a skill or an aptitude towards floral arrangement. But did you realize in setting up your own floral retail or florist retail business, the I guess supply chain that went behind the floral in the cut flowers industry? Did you know what you were getting into? Because as someone who can appreciate a beautiful bouquet of flowers, I don't necessarily know what comes into the bouquet, what makes a bouquet.
right. So in the beginning, when we started, what we knew for sure, what I knew for sure, I wanted to be a cornerstone of the operations was we always wanted to be local as we could be. We identified as a Malaysian, a female-led Malaysian company, um, and ch- choosing to use local flowers was fundamental. It was a cornerstone in our operations. It was. You know, when we started, I didn't know the terms behind it. I didn't understand. I mean, I didn't know what circular economy was. I didn't understand what grows, grow local, grow support, grow not flown. I didn't know all of that. But what I knew was like deep down inside, this is the direction I wanted to go. So I'm glad we felt that way. We were all on the same page because that's the direction we took. Having said that, because it is a business, there is always a need to balance what the customer wants
Mm.
against what we offer. So, yes, we have a great love for locally grown products, but at the same time, we do on occasions use products that are brought in.
Understood.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
it is
Malaysia
it
has
is
the
what customers want, right? You have to respond to the demand
yeah
sometimes.
within reason.
Yeah, of course. Can I ask you though? I mean, I love the ethos of Nook. I love the idea of responsible floristry and grow not flown. I didn't realize, Brenda, just how heavy environmental footprint that the floristry of floriculture or cut flowers industry actually takes a toll on the environment. Can you maybe give us a little bit of context? You know, deciding to have this ethos of grow not flown, put that into context for a layperson like myself in the world of floriculture and
Mm.
cut flower industry.
Okay, also let me use the two flowers as an example. Tulips and peonies. Everybody loves tulips and peonies. They are stunning. But there's no way we can grow them locally. So everything is flown in. It has to be flown in. And on top of that, the while flowers in themselves have a transient beauty, certain flowers have an even shorter transient beauties, and things like tulips and peonies would normally fall into this category. So so they have to be imported in. So I'm whenever we have conversations with customers and they're like, "Oh, I love them." So then it's a question of understanding, why do you love them? Do you love the structure of the flower? Do you love the scent behind it? And by understanding what the customer is looking for in the flower, then it's easy to educate the customer and then talk to them about resources that are locally available. For example, we grow lilies locally. We have locally grown tuberoses. Some of the locally grown orchids have a delightful scent. There's a lingering scent behind them. There's a whole wealth of flowers that are grown here that could share the attributes without necessarily being that flower.
Oh
Um, s-
wow.
so it is an ongoing education process.
I
Yeah,
I really like that about, educating the consumer, because simply by asking, why do you love peonies,
right.
for instance, it actually makes you stop to wonder, why do I?
What?
Is it because I always see on TV? Why do I like roses? Is it always because, I associate it with the way the media has portrayed, or popular culture has portrayed it with romance, for instance? Do I actually enjoy the scent of roses or the look of roses? I think that's quite interesting to ask. d- how do you have that conversation? And maybe you can tell us a little bit more about the locally grown flowers,
I have a
Brenda.
great example to share with you, especially with Valentine's Day. So when people come in to buy flowers for their partners or for their loved ones, and they're like, so this is a example that happens every year. Oh, Miss, I want to buy flowers. All right, like sure, yes. What would you like? Oh, I want to buy roses. Why do you want to buy roses? Oh, because it's Valentine's Day. So, but the person then, but does your girlfriend like roses? No, actually, she likes lilies. So you see, the thing is this. So then we always tell them you should buy her something that she's going to like, she enjoys, and things that you have knowledge about already, because then that makes the whole experience personalized, as opposed to the whole it is this occasion, therefore I have to buy this flower,
Mm.
which is something that we're trying to change. So some of our best-selling bouquets on Valentine's Day are actually our mixed flower bouquets, where they have like a lot of flowers in there, from chrysanthemums to lilies to maybe a couple of stalks of roses, some orchids in there. But they just bring such joy because they are vivid. The cost goes a lot further for the consumer. A lot of the flowers in there, maybe two-thirds of the flowers in there, if not all of it, are locally grown flowers. um, so it's a visual delight.
Right. I didn't know. So I don't know some of the flowers that are grown locally. Does our climate lend itself to growing certain types of flowers? You said roses are grown in Malaysia. That surprises
Roses
me.
are grown in Malaysia. Some of the best. There was one year where we were very, very lucky, and we managed to get almost an entire shipment of locally grown roses. And we were like, in all our social media posts, we were sharing with our customers, this year we are happy to offer you locally grown roses. And the thing is this, with consumers and with customers, when you share with them that you are happy about a product, and they have trust in you, that you've gone and you sourced and you've gotten the best product you can for them, and that sourcing process is backed by ethos and a sense of purpose, the buy-in from the consumer is amazing, because
Mm.
suddenly people feel, hey, there's a bigger thing to all of this. Like
Right.
I bought a stock of flower that is grown in Cameron Highlands. It is grown in a farm which is like 3 hours away from me. Um, it's nice for people to be able to relate to this, and then it just doesn't become a whole nameless experience, you know.
Mm.
So it's nice to be the connecting point between all of this, to build the stories, to share, and nothing helps retention better than being part of that story.
That's
Yeah.
absolutely right. And the other thing I have to say that I completely respect about Nook's ethos is the idea that it's not just prioritizing locally grown flowers, locally sourced flowers, but also you think about the entire process, the packaging that
Mm,
goes into a
mm.
bouquet. And I believe you also think about, what chemicals, what pesticides, what kind of flower food that you use and all that, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
So, the reason we decided to use the term responsible floristry as opposed to sustainable floristry is because I think, my personal opinion is that sustainable is a term that is, it's a huge term, and it's a term that's often bandied about without really understanding, the depth of the term. Um, we work in retail. For us to say that we are sustainable, it would also mean that we need to assure that our entire supply chain is sustainable. And that is something that I cannot confidently say.
Right.
And I
Can't
think it's
control also
uncontrolled,
sometimes.
and I
Mm.
think it's misleading to say that. So instead, we chose to go with responsible floristry because I'm taking responsibility for our own actions and all the actions that come from our establishment. So we've almost eliminated plastic use in all of our wrapping. Every the and almost the entire bouquet can go into compost, and the paper goes into recycling, save for a tiny little plastic sleeve that contains the cotton and the water. And even then, we try to keep it as small as we can. Um, all our cuttings and waste goes to a permaculture farm. They are our friends at One Third. It's a permaculture farm where they have free range chickens and eggs, and also our compost and waste goes there. Arrangements that go out in flower vases, we encourage people to return the vases, so we create a circular system with that. Um, we really try to walk the talk, and we think it through, like, even those cadets that flower bouquets come in, the plastic cadets, the ubiquitous kind. So
Uh-huh.
lately we realized that if we keep the stems from all the berry branches that we use, the
Right.
harder stems, we could split it in the middle, and then that holds the card.
Holds the card.
It holds
Oh,
the card. So they
wow.
are all
Oh.
tiny stats, but we are really, really trying to walk the talk on this lah.
It's, yeah, I mean, I can see how much thought and heart has gone into every step of the process. Brenda, there's still so much to cover. We're going to take a quick break on the show, but let's come back and continue this conversation. But I'm particularly curious to know how the pandemic has hit the floristry business. Let's come back and discuss that. More on the future is female in just a couple of minutes. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hi, welcome back to The Future's Female. I'm Melisa Idris, and I'm speaking today to Brenda James. She's the founder and principal florista of Nook Flowers. They are championing using or prioritizing locally sourced seasonal flowers, natural packaging, and recycled materials. Brenda, I want to talk to you about the past 2 years now. That this is the third year we're in a pandemic, but the past 2 years, I'm sure, has been really tough for retailers all around, but also for the floristry business. Can you tell me a little bit about how you've managed to weather this past 24 months?
Um, I think I have to say, in a lean as manner as we possibly could. Um, the first 6 months, I think, were the hardest because there was a lot of question marks, and our industry as a whole was a non-essential industry. So there was a lot of question marks, and it was really a question of holding out as long as we could. Um, it was not the easiest of days.
But
And
there have been repercussions, right? Because it wasn't just about lockdowns and not being able to continue or to open your business or to operate your business, but there's been repercussions within the floristry industry, the cut flower industry particularly,
yeah.
from growing flowers, from flower cultivation to supply chain issues to prices of flowers. That's all kind of snowballed over the past 2 years, and now
Mm.
there's it's really taking a toll on businesses like yours.
Yeah. So, and this is a global issue. It's not just Malaysia. I'm sure you've seen pictures of farms having to harvest and throw their harvest. And they had to do this because there was no chain, there was no
Mhm.
retail, there was no logistics. So
And flowers don't last. It's
they
not
don't
like you can
last.
grow and keep, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and with the farms, if they didn't harvest on time, then they wouldn't have the opportunity to replant. And and flowers, like everything that's growing, takes time. So there was a lot of uncertainty, and farmers were badly hit. The farmers were, when do you replant? Should we replant and then 6 months from now can we harvest? Should we then just hold out for another 3 months and only? There's a lot of questions, and so what we are seeing now is the repercussion of all of these staggered supply chains, um, and we are feeling this is reverberating throughout the whole global floral industry. And interestingly, it's also being particularly felt because now weddings are starting up again. People have waited for a long time to get married.
Mm.
So after 2.5 years, 2 years, now people are wanting to get married. So nothing quite like a wedding for flowers to be like on full display, right? So between the fact that there is a surge in demand and the fact that the farms are struggling a little bit to keep up, we are now seeing the apex of this issues.
Right. Do you
Yeah.
see it reversing, or do you see things getting better soon?
I am optimistic. I'm always a glass half full kind of girl. So I'm going to say, I was also reading a couple of industry articles, and the consensus is it's about a year before things stabilizes.
Wow.
Yeah. Uh, Bear in mind, December is Christmas. It's a high demand for flowers in December, and then we go into in our part of the world. The first half is a lot of cultural celebrations. There's Chinese New Year, and then we go into Valentine's Day. So there is a surge in demand. So things will just sort of taper off a little bit, and then come back to a peak during Mother's Day.
Right. Okay.
That's
Well,
yeah,
just now you said that it's also to do with not just the supply, but also to do with demand. And you talked a little bit about educating the customer.
yeah.
I want to use this opportunity, Brenda, to maybe educate myself a little bit, maybe educate anyone else who's watching. What can we as consumers do to not exacerbate the problem, the current problem, but also the environmental impact for the future?
Mm,
What key questions would you like me and others to ask as we're thinking about our next
I love
floral
this.
purchase?
Yes, always ask your florist where the flowers come from. Always ask, because you know what? It's also a good opportunity for the consumer to learn about what it is that they're purchasing, and you'll be surprised when you ask how forthcoming florists are to share. Um, if It is not a secret that flower prices are currently at their highest. And again, this is also because everything needs to be flown in. Logistics prices are high, global demand is high, and supply is low. So all of this add in flower prices are quite high. So if you have an opportunity to have a local farm in your area, see if you can buy cut flowers from them, see if you can buy potted plants from them, because at the end of the day, it's if it's joy that you're seeking, and flowers and plants do bring so much joy, and then you can share this joy with a small business or a locally grown enterprise. Why not do that?
Yeah, okay, wonderful. I'm going to make sure that the next bouquet I purchase, I will ask the florist for his or her recommendation. What can I do to make sure that I am responsible in my purchase?
Yeah.
Okay, so I love that you have used your passion for floral design as a not just a creative outlet, but also a business opportunity and to make your livelihood. But you also, I understand, in in a separate role, is the chairperson of the Philharmonic Society of Selangor.
Selangor. Yes, that's right. Yeah, the
So tell
Philharmonic
me about your
Society of Selangor.
marrying flowers and music.
Actually, interestingly enough, both parts coincided at the same time, and I grew into both parts at almost the same time. Um, After I left the corporate world, I had time to pursue again my pursuit of my own happiness, and I realized singing was a fundamental part of that. So I joined this organization called the Philharmonic Society of Selangor. I went in, and it's a community choir. It's a community choir that is almost as old as the country. We are only 1 year younger than the country. Yeah, yeah. The Phil, as we are popularly known, is possibly the oldest performing arts society in Malaysia. And what a community choir means is there is no barrier to entry as long as people are passionate about singing. They are welcome to join in and be part of the choir. All proceeds that are raised from our shows eventually go back to various organizations in the community that need it. And the whole society is formed by volunteers, powered by volunteers, and this is
Oh,
the way it's been for the past 60 odd years.
I really love
4 years.
that. Yeah, that's really wonderful. What kind of events or do have I'm wondering with the past couple of years, surely it
Yeah.
has probably impacted the ability to put on a show. Have things started up again?
Um, well, we are optimistic that we can start up again properly. Singing was not a COVID safe activity, unfortunately. So a lot of things were done via Zoom, but with Zoom, it's also a little bit more limited. But we look forward to doing our community singing programs. We used to run a program called Singing in the Park, where we gathered at Taman Tugu, and members of the public were welcome to come and just join us and sing under the trees. That was a really popular program. We also stage programs at the KL Pack and DPAC twice a year. So there's a lot of things going on, and I, for one, I mean, I just look forward to being able to run the community programs again. Yeah.
That's really wonderful. I think that's really an interesting. Can you just give me an example of what kind of things did you do before the pandemic and some things that we can hopefully look forward to
Oh, one of
in
the
the near
things
future?
that was one of the most popular things. Of course, we had our stage programs. We used to have concerts at KL Pack, like middle of the year concerts, and then in Christmas we used to have the Christmas concerts. And then at about 3 or 4 times a year, we had programs called Singing in the Park. Just so the whole idea is for people to come and be able to sing freely. I mean, when was the last time we stood in a public place and just sang? You know,
No,
um,
I can't remember. I'm
yeah,
personally a little tone deaf.
yeah.
I'm not sure whether I would be able to contribute to your choir, but how would people be able to join? I mean, is it something that someone interested might be able to say, think about participating or contributing in any way?
So lately, we've only been running our programs on Zoom, but we look forward to opening up the choir again soon. And normally, when we do this, the information can be found on the Phil's Facebook page and our Instagram page. Um, yeah, it's just a bit of a wait and see right now because as soon as it's safe, the singing will begin again.
Oh, and I look forward
Uh,
to that. Brenda, thank you so much for talking to me today. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you and learning more about the things that you're passionate about, flowers and music.
the
It's been
pleasure is all
wonderful.
mine. Thank you.
That was my conversation with Brenda James, the founder and principal florista of Nook Flowers, also the chairperson of the Philharmonic Society of Selangor. I'm Melisa Idris, and I will be back with you same time next week for another episode of The Future is Female. Thanks so much for watching, and good night.